Hi, I'm SoCal Honey Badger, and that was my intro. Alright guys, so let's go over frame trapping. A lot of you guys don't understand frame trapping. You look at frame data, right, and you look at +3 and -3 and +10 and startup of 10 and all of that, and you don't understand when it's your turn to attack, when it's your turn to defend. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm getting frame trapped. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just pressing out of turn. That's not a frame trap. What is a frame trap then? You may be asking. What does that even mean? A frame trap is when you leave enough of a gap in move A to move B to where your opponent gets complete control of their character and can start attacking, but your next move comes out in such a time that it will interrupt them and their move actually won't come out. Does that make any sense? Let's go further. So frame trapping is not really that big of a deal in this game as it is compared to other fighting games. Frame trapping is really big in games like Tekken and games like Guilty Gear, where a lot of your damage comes from fishing for counter hits, and that's usually what frame trapping is used for, is to fish for counter hits, right? I'm going to put you in a frame trap. I'm going to bait out a button when you shouldn't be pushing a button, and if you don't know that you can't push a button, then you will be frame trapped. I will get a counter hit because you pushed a button, and I will get a bigger combo. In this game, not so much. Most of your big counter hit combos come from crushing blows, and most of those are earned in the neutral. But the idea of a frame trap is that you leave a gap. You do a move, then you do another move, and there's a gap between the two moves where they can push a button, but the gap is so small that their button doesn't come out. So they should know that they're not supposed to push a button, and if they do, they will get blown up. That's why it's a trap, right? And it's not really from using plus frames. Usually you use minus frames. A lot of people think, oh, I got to get plus frames to set up frame traps. You can. That's one way of doing it, but usually you do it with minus frames. And again, it's kind of hard to find an example in this game. The best one I can show you is Kung Lao. He's got a frame trap off of minus frames. So let me show you guys that, and then I'll show you guys the gap. It's a situation that you guys are probably familiar with. Let me set my AI to block mode all. It's a situation you guys are familiar with. You get caught by this gimmick, and you don't know that it's a frame trap. But this is a frame trap. So let me, so I got her set to block, right? It's this, right? That's a frame trap, right? Because if you meter burn it, right? So I do this, and then you catch her there. So I do forward 1-3, I'm negative. I do the spin, and I whiff the spin, and they're like, oh, okay, he's -20, I can attack, and then I hit the meter burn to blow through their counter, right? So they're like, oh, shit, he did a move that's negative. It is now my turn to attack. In this situation specifically, it is my turn to punish. And I do another move, which is amplify spin, to catch them trying to punish me. And that is the frame trap. Because yes, they can stick out a button, right? When I whiff the spin, they can stick out a button. But if I amplify it, the amplify that comes out afterwards comes out so fast that it catches them in the startup of their button. And that's the trap. You have to know that, oh, I cannot push buttons here. If I do, they will hit me. I have to continue to block even though they're negative, and I can attack, and I probably should attack. And that's where the mind games with frame trapping come from, right? Because then you can sit there and just do that and not do anything. And then now they miss their punish, they miss their opportunity to attack, or I can sit there and just let it rock, right? Change up the rhythm and the timing on that. But the basis, like I said, a lot of you guys have probably been caught by this, right? You've been caught by that. You're like, oh shit, I can go and punish. Oh, now I'm getting launched. That's a frame trap. That's one of the basic frame traps, is using negative frames to bait a button, but then placing an attack after those negative frames that comes out fast enough that you end up blowing them up. So if Jackie, I mean, I don't know, she'll probably fucking try to interrupt forward 1-3, And then the frame trap won't work. Let me see if I can get her. Let me see what she does on reversal. Let's see. A grease kick. We'll set her to grease kick, right? But she probably is going to interrupt forward. That's also a frame trap, right? That gap there. Forward 1, 3. So you can set it up right. Forward 1, right? And so she's like, oh, okay. With Kung Lao, forward 1 is -5. It's my turn to attack. But I do forward 1, 3. Catch her trying to push buttons to stop me on that, right? That's also a frame trap. In fact, that's probably an easier frame trap for you guys to see. But it's creating tiny gaps. Tiny gaps where they could attack, right? Because you're going to see grease kick comes out. She tries to do grease kick. Grease kick is one of her fastest moves, right? But the gap is so small that the move, like the startup, barely comes out. And that's how you properly set up frame traps. That's the one with using negative frames. The other one is using frame traps with positive frames. So I'm going to set myself up to play Jackie, and we're going to move over to the corner. And so Jackie can set up a frame trap by using positive frames. So that's Kung Lao using them with negative frames. Jackie can set them up with positive frames by doing a move that's plus on block and then doing a slower move, right? So if I do a move that's plus on block and I follow it up with another move that's really, really fast, it's not really a frame trap. That's just seamless pressure. So if I do a move that's like plus 10 on block and then I follow it up with a jab that's like 6 frames startup, right? So like you can't even do anything. You're still in block stun for 4 frames before my jab even comes out, before my jab even hits you. That's not a frame trap. Like there's no trap, right? Because they could never actually have pushed a button. So that's just seamless pressure. They couldn't have pushed a button. So anybody that knows the frame data knows I'm not going to push buttons. I'm just going to hold block here. The idea behind a frame trap is to abuse the fact that people count frames and no frames. Oh, he's -5 here. I can push a button. And then they get hit with the frame trap, right? That's the whole idea is, yeah, you know frame data, but do you know all the frame data? And that's why frame traps work at like an intermediate level. But Jackie has a frame trap she could do with her standing 1-1, right? So you look at standing 1-1, and it's +2 on block. So when I do 1-1, right? Hold on, let me set my Kung Lao to block. Right? So I do 1-1. You see the pushback isn't, I had to put him in the corner because this really only works in the corner. In mid-screen, you can do it, but you have to dash, and that kind of lets people know that you're trying to trap them. And then they can interrupt it. It's easier to interrupt. But so her 1-1 is +2 on block. Her forward 3 is a 9-frame mid, right? So if I'm +2 on block and then I do a 9-frame mid, that means my mid comes out in 7 frames. Kung Lao's fastest moves are 7 frames. So if he has frame perfect timing, at best he will trade with me. At worst, if he's like less than frame perfect timing, I'll get a counter hit. And so that's how that frame trap works, right? I'm leaving a gap enough to where he can push a button, but not enough to where his button will actually reach its active frames and hit me. So I get him in the corner, right? I do 1-1 and then forward 3-1, and that's a frame trap, right? There's a 7-frame gap. He could interrupt, and I can set him to reverse, right? And I can catch him with a counter hit. Let me see. I think spin is what I can do to catch it. So you see how the spin started up, right? The spin started up, but he got hit out of it before the spin activated, right? If I wait too long, the spin comes out and hits me, right? I have to be very precise in the frame trap. So if I do 1-1 and I'm a little bit late, the spin comes out and it hits me. If I do it properly, let me do it right. Come on. If I do it properly, the forward 3 interrupts the spin. The spin never actually comes out. Like it starts to come out, but the active frames don't come out, and I get a counter hit. So that's one frame trap with Jackie using plus frames. So there's different kinds of frame traps you could do. You could use minus frames if you have something that comes out afterwards very, very fast. Or you can use a frame trap that uses plus frames if you have a move that comes out really, really slow. You can even frame trap with 1-1 into 1-1. This is why Jackie's very scary in the corner, right? I can do 1-1 and then 1-1 again. And her standing one is 7 frames on startup. So, like, basically, that move is coming out in 5 frames. So he has a 5-frame gap where something can come out, right? And I will blow it up. Like, Kung Lao doesn't have a 5-frame move anyways. And there aren't any, like, armored breaker or armor attacks, really, like, outside of, like, flawless blow or fatal blow. Even if he fatal blowed, it would still catch him because fatal blow only comes out in 8 frames, right? So I can set him... right? I can set him to 1% on health and then have his reversal be the fatal blow, right? Beaten and broken, and I can interrupt that, right? Hold on. So I do that. Let me not fuck it up. Let me not fuck it up, right? Oh, well, I did it too late and the armor came through. There we go, right? So even if he tried to do his fatal blow, out of the frame to get out of the frame trap in the corner, if I time it properly, if I time it exactly right, frame perfect, right? Because we're talking about armor starts up at 8 frames. This is a 7-frame gap. I have to time the frame trap frame perfectly. Jackie will blow up his fatal blow. If the Kung Lao player does not know this frame trap, he's going to die, right? He's just going to get hit with 4-3-1 into a full corner combo. If he knows the frame trap, he knows after 1-1, I have to block, because everything else that comes after this is going to interrupt any button I press. And that's how you start incorporating frame traps into your gameplay. Not every character has them. Some characters are built for them. Like Jackie and Kung Lao are 2 that I think are kind of built for that sort of thing. But basically, the frame traps are a test of, does your opponent know the gimmick, right? It's less of the gimmick. It's not like Z-Hat Kung Lao, where I'm going to throw out the Z-Hat, and that's more of a test of reaction, right? Can you react to me throwing out this slow move and hit me before I get it out? This is a test of game knowledge. Do you know my character's frame data enough to know where these traps will be set? And if you don't know them, I'm going to constantly get free hits because you're going to be playing or you're going to be attacking at times when you should not, because the frame data is saying that you don't have anything fast enough to interrupt this. And so that's the reason why certain characters in the tier list, right? Because when you look at the tier list and you're a frame trap character usually ends up like either in the mid tier to low, right? So usually when the game comes out, a frame trap character, frame trap style character ends up being one of the most dominant characters because people don't know the frame data. But at the end of the game's lifespan, the frame trap character ends up being like not even a part of the meta. And the reason is because frame trap characters and frame traps only work if you don't know where the trap is. Once people play the game and they start understanding the matchup and they know where the frame trap is, they stop falling for it. And when a character is built entirely around frame trapping, like once people figure out the gimmicks, everybody's just going to hold block and you're never going to be able to get any damage out. An example of this is like Steve Fox in Tekken. Most of his combo starters are from counter hits, so he has to set up frame traps, and if he can't bait you to press buttons and you defend the whole time, like he never gets any combos out, never gets any damage. So Steve Fox at certain points in Tekken's lifespan ended up being kind of mid to low tier. There are no characters that I know of in MK11 that are built around frame trapping. There are characters that have frame traps and can use them, but that's not where they're getting most of their damage. Fighting game developers have kind of come to the conclusion that like frame traps are fun, but once they get figured out, they're kind of useless. So at high level play, that character just doesn't exist anymore. So they stopped designing characters as like the frame trap archetype, and they started designing characters of like, okay, this is a rushdown character. They will have, 2 or 3 frame traps, and then they'll rush down in other ways. or this is a zoning character and they will have a frame trap here, so that way if you do get inside, they have a gimmick to be able to fight in the close range to get you off of them. Like, frame trapping ends up being less of a character style and more of just a tool that most characters will have. Pretty much every character in the game has some sort of frame trap. Whether or not they're good or useful, like if the gap is like fucking like 10 frames, if there's a 10 frame gap in their frame trap, but like their next move doesn't lead to anything, it's like, okay, I can put you in this frame trap and land a jab. My jab does not like chain into anything, so it doesn't do anything. It's just a frame trap, just like an oversight. But yeah, that's how a frame trap works, okay? You leave a gap in the frame data that you know, and it's a test to see if they know it. And this should help you in your pressure, right? Because this will help your mind games. You'll leave the gap. You'll throw out the frame trap. You'll see if they fall for it. Then you're like, okay, this guy doesn't know frame data. He doesn't know my character, and he doesn't know the matchup. I could just do this all the time, and he's going to fall for it, and I'm going to beat him. If they block, then that tells you, oh, this guy knows the frame data. He knows my character. He knows the matchup, and he's not falling for it. I got to do something else to open him up. And so when you're trying to condition your opponent, you're trying to outplay them, you're feeling them out, this is one of the tools that you use to feel them out. This will immediately tell you if you're playing someone that knows what the fuck they're doing, or if you're playing someone that has no idea and bought the game yesterday and just wants to mash uppercuts and grabs. So going forward, I want you guys to look into your command list, look at your frame data, look where you can sneak in gaps, look where you can sneak in frame traps, and then when you go online, start using those strings, those pressure strings, and those setups to see if your opponent falls for it. And if they don't fall for it, then it's like, okay, they're going to block, they're going to hold the defense, I'm going to start grabbing. And that's where the mind games on top of mind games on top of mind games start. But you got to have that base level of knowing that there is a frame trap before you start pushing buttons for the mind games to start. And that's how you start achieving more higher level and of gameplay and having a little bit more fun with the depth of the game rather than just mashing out uppercuts. Anyways, that's the end of the frame trap tutorial. I hope this helped you guys. Fucking, I don't know what, like, subscribe, and tell your mama, because your mama don't be frame trapping. She's kind of a bitch ass about that. I'll be blowing her up with counter hits all day. So, do all of that shit, and I'll see most of you at the next tutorial. All right?
Hey, so, if you follow YouTube enough, you know that they like to put weird stuff all over the screen for the last 30 seconds. So this is going to fill that space. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably right there and there. All over the place right now. Yeah, go ahead and click that stuff if you want. And that's 30 seconds.